Karen demanded that I take down my son's memorial stone from my front yard, claiming it violated neighborhood landscaping rules. But when I responded by installing a 60-foot flagpole with an American flag so enormous it completely blocked her view, she finally understood what she had done. She had disrespected a Gold Star father, one who knew exactly how to push back while staying entirely within the law. My name is John, and I am a retired Command Sergeant Major of the United States Army. I served for 30 years before retiring 5 years ago and settling in Virginia Beach, Virginia. My son, Michael, followed my footsteps into the Army and served as an infantry sergeant with the 101st Airborne Division. He was killed in action in Afghanistan 3 years ago at the age of 26. He died protecting his squad during an ambush, saving 4 lives before losing his own. What Karen failed to understand when she targeted my son's memorial was that she had just dishonored the memory of a fallen soldier in front of his father, and I was not going to allow that to stand. I live in Seaside Commons, a subdivision built in 2012 about 20 minutes from Virginia Beach oceanfront. Roughly half the neighborhood consists of military families, active duty service members, veterans, and retirees from nearby Naval Station Norfolk and Joint Base Langley Eustis. People here understand military life, long deployments, and the sacrifices families are asked to make. The HOA exists but focuses only on basic maintenance and oversight. For 3 years after Michael was killed, no one bothered me. Neighbors understood my grief and respected the memorial I built for my son. The memorial itself is simple and dignified. In my front yard, about 15 feet from the sidewalk, I place a flat stone engraved with Michael's name, rank, dates of service, and the words, "Killed in action, Afghanistan," a hero who gave all. Beside the stone, I planted a small American flag and surrounded the area with carefully maintained red, white, and blue flowers. It is not large or elaborate. It is simply a father's tribute to his son. Then Karen moved into the neighborhood 9 months ago. She had golden blonde hair and purchased a home 3 doors down from mine, with a direct view of my property from her living room window. Within weeks, she began complaining about various aspects of the neighborhood, decorations, landscaping choices, and how residents park their vehicles. 6 weeks after she arrived, I found a violation notice in my mailbox. It read, "Unauthorized decorative stone and plantings in front yard. Does not conform to approved landscaping standards. Remove within 14 days. I read it 3 times, my hand shaking. She was referring to my son's memorial as an unauthorized decorative stone. I walked straight to her house and knocked on her door. She answered while holding her phone. I told her I had received her notice regarding my son's memorial stone. She replied that it was not compliant with HOA landscaping rules and that front yards were required to maintain a uniform appearance with approved plantings only. I told her that stone honored my son, who was killed in Afghanistan 3 years ago while serving his country. She said she understood, but insisted the rules apply to everyone, and that HOA approval was required for any non-standard landscaping. I told her my son died protecting this country, and that the memorial was staying exactly where it was. She said I would be fine and that the rules were clear. I warned her she was making a serious mistake, keeping my voice steady despite the anger building inside me. She replied that she was enforcing community standards and closed the door. I contacted the HOA management company the following day. The property manager, a reasonable man named Richard, was horrified. He apologized and told me that memorial stones for fallen service members are protected under Virginia law and federal guidelines, and that HOA rules cannot prohibit them. He said he would immediately send Karen a letter explaining this. I thanked him. Richard sent a letter, but Karen ignored it. 2 weeks later, another violation notice arrived, this time including a $500 fine for continued noncompliance. I filed a formal complaint with the HOA board. At the next board meeting, which I attended, the board voted unanimously to rescind Karen's violation notice and fine. They issued a formal statement clarifying that memorial stones for fallen service members were explicitly permitted and legally protected. I believed that would finally put an end to it. 3 days later, I returned home from the grocery store and found Karen standing in my yard, taking photographs of the memorial stone. When she saw me, she didn't look embarrassed at all. I asked her what she was doing. She said she was documenting the violation for her records. I told her there was no violation, and that the HOA board had already confirmed the memorial was protected. She said she disagreed with their decision, and stated that the memorial did not belong in a residential front yard. The dismissive tone she used while referring to my son's memorial made my decision for me. I told her quietly to get off my property. She claimed she was standing on HOA common space, but I corrected her and told her she was in my yard. I warned her to leave immediately, or I would call the police for trespassing. She walked away, but the defiance in her expression was unmistakable. That evening, I made a decision. If Karen wanted to play games with my son's memory, I would give her something she could not ignore, could not complain away, and could not stop. I called a friend of mine named Thomas, who owns a flagpole installation company in Norfolk. Tom is a Navy veteran who specializes in large residential and commercial flagpoles. I told him I wanted the biggest residential flagpole legally allowed in Virginia Beach, something visible from everywhere in the neighborhood. When he asked how big, I said 60 feet. I wanted a massive American flag. Tom went quiet for a moment and told me that was a serious installation. I explained why I wanted it. I told him Karen was harassing me over Michael's memorial stone. Tom told me to say no more. He said he would handle the permits and have a crew out within 2 weeks. He said the job would be done at cost, with no markup, because Michael deserved better than what was being done to his memory. Over the next 2 weeks, Tom handled everything. He pulled permits from the city of Virginia Beach, confirmed property setbacks, and ensured the installation met all local codes. A 60-foot flagpole is substantial, but it is legal for residential properties in Virginia as long as setback requirements are met. My property has a large backyard, and Tom positioned the flagpole 30 feet from my rear property line, well within legal limits. That placement made the pole clearly visible from the street and positioned it directly in Karen's line of sight from her living room window. The installation took 2 days. Tom's crew dug a deep foundation, set the pole in a reinforced concrete base, and installed a commercial-grade pulley system. The flagpole was powder-coated white aluminum, gleaming in the Virginia sun. Then came the flag. Tom ordered a custom American flag measuring 20 by 30 feet, the largest size typically used for residential installations and designed specifically for a 60-foot pole. When fully extended in even a light breeze, the flag was absolutely magnificent, a massive display of red, white, and blue visible from nearly half a mile away. The day we raised the flag for the first time, nearly 30 neighbors gathered in my backyard. Tom's crew slowly hoisted the flag upward while I stood at attention, saluting. Several veterans from the neighborhood joined me, standing tall and saluting as well. I saw tears in more than a few eyes. When the flag reached the top of the pole and fully unfurled in the breeze, the sight was overwhelming. Its sheer size, the way it rippled through the air, and the deep, steady sound of fabric moving in the wind made it unforgettable. It was a tribute worthy of every service member who had ever worn the uniform, and especially worthy of my son. Karen came outside when she noticed a small crowd gathered behind my house. She stood in her yard, staring upward at the flagpole with her mouth hanging open. The pole rose 60 feet into the air, positioned directly in her line of sight. From her living room window, her kitchen window, and even her front porch, all she could see was that massive American flag. She walked toward the edge of my property and said I could not possibly put up a flagpole that size. I told her I absolutely could. It was fully permitted by the city of Virginia Beach, met every setback requirement, and complied with all applicable laws. She said it was blocking her view. I told her it wasn't blocking anything. It was providing her with a constant view of the American flag, something she should be grateful for. She called it ridiculous and said she would file a complaint with the HOA. I told her to go ahead. The American flag is protected under federal and state law, and HOAs cannot restrict its display. I told her she would lose. She stormed back into her house. Over the next week, Karen filed 3 separate complaints with the HOA about the flagpole. Richard from the management company called to explain that all 3 complaints had been dismissed. He told me flag displays are protected under the Freedom to Display the American Flag Act of 2005, as well as Virginia state law. He said Karen was demanding the HOA force me to remove it, but they had absolutely no authority to do so. Federal law explicitly protected my right to display the flag. I told Richard I already knew. That was the entire reason I installed it. The neighborhood's reaction was overwhelmingly positive. Multiple neighbors stopped by to thank me and share their own memories of Michael. Several veterans told me they were inspired to install flagpoles of their own, though none planned to go quite as large as mine. One Gold Star mother who lived 2 streets over came by with tears in her eyes and thanked me. She told me her son had died in Iraq, and that seeing the flag every day reminded her that their sacrifices mattered. Karen tried everything she could think of to make it stop. She filed noise complaints, claiming the flag hardware made too much noise in the wind. Those were dismissed after officials confirmed the sound was well below any noise ordinance limits. She claimed the flagpole was a safety hazard. That complaint was dismissed after the city confirmed it met all engineering and safety standards. She even tried to argue that the flagpole was affecting her property value. That claim was dismissed because there was no legal basis for it. 3 months after the flagpole went up, Karen put her house on the market. The listing photos carefully avoided showing my property, but anyone who came to view the house couldn't miss the 60-foot flagpole with a massive American flag directly in their line of sight. Her house sat on the market for 4 months before she finally accepted an offer well below her asking price. She moved out within 6 weeks of closing. A retired Marine Corps family bought her house. The very first thing the husband did after moving in was come over to introduce himself and compliment the flagpole. He told me his name was Master Sergeant Davis, retired, and said it was one hell of a flag. He told me my son would be proud. I thanked him and welcomed him to the neighborhood. The memorial stone remains in my front yard, carefully maintained with fresh flowers rotated seasonally. No one has questioned it or complained about it since Karen left. The 60-foot flagpole still stands tall in my backyard, with a massive American flag flying every day from sunrise to sunset. I illuminate it at night in accordance with flag code, so it remains visible 24 hours a day. I raise and lower the flag myself every day. Each morning, I stand at attention and salute as it rises. Each evening, I stand at attention and salute as it comes down. It is a ritual that keeps me connected to Michael and to the 30 years I spent in uniform. On Michael's birthday and on the anniversary of his death, I fly the flag at half-staff. Neighbors have told me they notice and that it reminds them to honor fallen service members. Since then, Tom has installed flagpoles for 4 other families in the neighborhood, all veterans inspired by mine. None are quite as large, but the neighborhood now has flags flying from multiple properties, creating a visible display of patriotism and respect for service. I still keep the violation notices Karen sent me. They're stored in a folder alongside Michael's military records, his medals, and the folded flag from his funeral. They serve as a reminder that some people will never understand sacrifice, but that doesn't mean we stop honoring it. Every morning when I raise that flag, I think about Michael. I think about the young man who joined the Army to serve something bigger than himself, who led his soldiers with courage and integrity, and who gave his life so others could return home to their families. Karen tried to erase his memory with bureaucracy and HOA harassment. Instead, she inspired me to build a tribute that will stand for as long as I own this property, and likely long after I am gone. If you've ever had someone disrespect a memorial for a fallen service member, or face harassment from people who don't understand the meaning of sacrifice, share your story in the comments. Send this to any Gold Star families who need to know their loved ones' memories are protected by law and by veterans who refuse to let them be forgotten. And subscribe for more stories about standing up for what truly matters. Sometimes the best way to honor the fallen isn't with quiet dignity alone. It's a 60-foot declaration that their sacrifice will never be diminished,